In the heart of West Africa, a quiet rebellion is raging, and at the center of it all is a young soldier with revolution in his voice and Thomas Sankara in his blood. He came to power through a coup d'etat, but not the kind the West supports, not the kind backed by IMF loans or photo ops in Paris. In just months, he did what few African leaders have dared to try: expelled the French military, tore up military agreements, cut ties with Western financiers, and called out decades of neocolonialism masked with freedom. To his supporters, he's the second coming of Thomas Sankara. To his enemies, he's a dangerous insurgent with Pan-African agenda, and now they call him dangerous. Ibrahim Traoré isn't just changing his country, he's challenging the global order and inspiring a new wave of African defiance. From Burkina Faso to the Sahel to the rest of the continent, his name is chanted by the defiant and feared by the powerful. But who exactly is Ibrahim Traoré? What does he want, and why is the West scrambling to contain his rise? To understand Ibrahim Traoré, you need to understand the land he comes from, a country that has buried more revolutions than any other on the continent. Burkina Faso, formerly Upper Volta, was renamed by Thomas Sankara, the iconic anti-imperialist who ruled in the 1980s. Burkina Faso means land of upright people, but since Sankara's assassination in 1987, orchestrated with foreign complicity, the country has been anything but upright. Over the past decade, Burkina Faso has cycled through 5 heads of state, weathered multiple coups, and seen large parts of its territory fall to jihadist insurgents, despite millions of dollars in Western security support. In the midst of the chaos emerged Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a soldier trained in the University of Ouagadougou and a seasoned artillery officer. He served in the northern Sahel, where villages were routinely torched by terrorists and citizens left unprotected by the state. But unlike many in the officer class, Traoré didn't just take orders, he started asking questions. Why, despite billions in aid, was Burkina Faso losing territory every week? Why were French troops stationed in the country if attacks were only growing? Why was the country consistently topping lists of the world's most neglected displacement crisis with...
Facts. That's the question we should ask. Why, if you have foreign army in your country, quote unquote, to help you, to protect your borders, your cities, but at the same time, terrorism is happening in your country? People are being deleted. Groups are being armed by, you know why? You know who? To take over your minerals? Nah, you need to kick them out of the country, right? That's what my boy is doing right here. And we love that. And in the last video, I told you guys that Ibrahim Traoré is the kind of leader, young leader that the Africa need. You know what I mean? Every African country need a president like Ibrahim Traoré, a young that understands what's going on right now in 2025. We are sick and tired of all these old presidents that stayed in power for 50, 60 years and did nothing for the country, for the continent, stealing. And because of them, we see a lot of African fleeing the country, you know what I mean? Trying to go to Europe, America, you name it. And that's sad, because African countries are rich. You have everything. We need infrastructures. We need to develop those things. We have the resources to do that. But why our presidents are not doing that? That's the question. And it's sad to see 2025 African living like they're living now. That's crazy. Although there are plenty of countries in Africa that are developing. Namibia, South Africa, Angola, Eastern African countries are developing very, very fast. West African countries, some of them are developing very, very fast. But still, a lot of people there, the countryside, are extremely poor. And those things need to change. And that's the reason why we need young leaders like Ibrahim Traoré. You know what I mean? Let's keep pushing.
Nearly 10% of its population forced to flee their homes due to violence and insecurity. And why were the nation's mines being drained by foreign companies while citizens couldn't access basic needs?
Aucun sacrifice ne sera de trop.
No sacrifice will be too great to take this country out of the situation in which it finds itself. So, our commitment is for a return to peace. And our compass will always be the people.
This wasn't just a coup, it was a declaration of disobedience. Traoré framed it as a rectification of the previous military administration led by Paul-Henri Damiba, who many accused of being too cozy with the West and too hesitant to break old ties. With no background in politics and no financial elite behind him, Traoré leaned on something much older, Burkinabe patriotism and the spirit of Sankara. He began echoing Sankara's speeches, nationalizing narratives and urging youth to rise, not with weapons, but with tools, imagination and hope. But hope alone isn't what makes the West nervous. It's what came next that turned Traoré into a geopolitical threat. Since gaining independence in 1960, according to data from the Africa Center for Strategic Studies, Burkina Faso has seen more coups than any other African nation, a whopping 9 successful coups with at least a dozen failed attempts. In 1966, Colonel Sangoule Lazimana overthrows President Maurice Yamego after mass protests against austerity and authoritarianism. France keeps close diplomatic ties, no sanctions, no outrage. In 1980, Colonel Saye Zabo topples Lamizana in another military coup, another military man, another promise of reform. But the economy stalls and foreign aid becomes the lifeline. In 1982, Major Dr. Jean-Baptiste Drogo overthrows Zabo, promising reform. In 1983, Captain Thomas Sankara, just 33 years old, takes power in a revolutionary coup. He slashes government wastage, promotes local industries and launches a war against corruption, illiteracy and foreign control. In 1987 comes Blaise Compaoré, Sankara's closest ally, overthrows and assassinates him in a France-backed coup, ushering in almost 3 decades of authoritarian rule, a pivot to the West and neoliberal compliance. In comes 2014, Compaoré is ousted by a popular uprising after attempting to change the constitution to extend his rule. He flees to Côte d'Ivoire. His French allies fall silent. In 2022 January, Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba overthrows the civilian government of President Roch Kabore, citing a failure to contain a jihadist insurgency. But he keeps close ties with France, keeps their troops, keeps their contracts. And in 2022 September, Captain Ibrahim Traoré overthrows Damiba in a counter-coup, accusing him of betraying revolutionary ideals and protecting foreign interests. Despite all these coups and counter-coups, everything changed for the country in 1987. That's when Thomas Sankara was gunned down and ousted in a coup plotted by his closest ally, Blaise Compaoré. The revolution that once threatened French mining contracts and Western dominance in Africa was silenced, and a puppet regime was installed. For 27 years, Compaoré ruled with the invincible to the naked eye approval of Western powers. Burkina Faso opened its goldfields to foreign corporations, privatized state industries, and France-Afrique was in full control. Burkina Faso became what scholars called a semi-sovereign state, outwardly independent but internally guided by external levers. Born in 1988, a year after Sankara's assassination, Ibrahim Traoré grew up under the Compaoré government. But unlike many of his generation who fled abroad or retreated into silence, Traoré chose to serve. What shaped him wasn't just military doctrine, but the realities of war in the Sahel. Since 2015, Burkina Faso had faced a violent insurgency led by Al-Qaeda-linked and ISIS-affiliated groups. He served in some of the hardest-hit regions, Loroum, Yatenga, and Soum, where state authority had collapsed, and French forces present in the country under Operation Barkhane rarely intervened directly to protect civilians. He, like Sankara before him, began seeing the war on terror not as a security partnership, but as a cover for neocolonial extraction. He began to question his own side. Something didn't add up. Missions were underfunded. Despite years of foreign military aid, intelligence on terrorist movements were often withheld or delayed. French forces in the region seemed more interested in guarding mining corridors than protecting civilians. The contradiction became too loud to ignore. In 2022, while serving under Lieutenant Colonel Damiba transitional government, Traoré grew disillusioned. Damiba had promised a new direction, but had refused to cut ties with France. French troops remained in their borders, agreements stayed secret, and the people's suffering worsened.
And that's always a problem in Africa. Always. We just seen like 5 people, 5 coups, always the same history. You know? As soon as they get the power, they become comfy, you know what I mean? And they want to stay forever, you know? And letting the Europeans, in that case France, to take over the country, minerals and stuff like that. And the question is, none of them really, I mean, it's very, very strange. You cannot develop your freaking country. Why is that? I mean, let's say let's say I don't mind you stealing from your people. But at least if you develop something for your people, I'm going to be like, okay, at least he did that. But all of them are doing nothing. That's insane. And what we've seen with Ibrahim Traoré, what they've done just in past 3 years, it's crazy. It's crazy. Kick the French out of the country, nationalize gold mine, no mineral is allowed to go outside of the country. They need to be treated in the country. That's crazy. And that's beautiful. It means you're giving power to the people, you're giving jobs to the people, you're creating infrastructures, companies, using your resources, and then manufacturing it, and then you can buy it. You can sell it outside of the country. That's beautiful. Use the money of the gold to buy stuffs that they need to produce their own and transform their own resources. That's amazing. That's amazing. If all African leaders, president, did that, Africa will be like Dubai or some shit like that. Excuse my French. But they're not doing that. They just want the money and the power and staying, dying while keeping the power. That's insane. Let's keep pushing.
Traoré listened, and when he marched on the capital in September 2022 with loyalist units, it wasn't just a coup against Damiba, it was a coup against the system. An unknown 35-year-old had just ousted a French-leaning general and declared that Burkina Faso would reclaim its destiny. Fast forward to today, Ibrahim Traoré has openly embraced Sankara's legacy, igniting a revival of Pan-African pride and anti-colonial sentiment in Burkina Faso and beyond. In the colonial playbook, there's an unwritten rule. You can rebel, but only within the lines. Ibrahim Traoré didn't just step outside the lines, he tore the whole page out. Within just 4 months of taking power, he expelled the French military from Burkina Faso, ending Operation Sabre, a counter-terrorism force housed at a base near the Ouagadougou airport. He also terminated a 1961 military agreement that allowed French forces to intervene at will in Burkina's internal affairs, a relic of colonial-era cooperation in quotes, deals still active across francophone Africa.
Aucun d'entre eux ne serait aujourd'hui avec un pays souverain si l'armée française ne s'était pas déployée dans cette région. Nous avions une relation sécuritaire. Elle était de deux natures en vérité. Il y a une partie, c'était notre engagement contre le terrorisme depuis 2013. On avait raison. Je crois qu'on a oublié de nous dire merci. C'est pas grave, ça viendra avec le temps. L'ingratitude, je suis bien placé pour le savoir, c'est une maladie non transmissible à l'homme. Et je le dis pour tous les gouvernants africains qui n'ont pas eu le courage vis-à-vis de leurs opinions publiques de le porter, aucun d'entre eux ne serait aujourd'hui avec un pays souverain si l'armée française ne s'était pas déployée dans cette région. Et j'ai une pensée émue pour nos soldats qui, parfois, ont donné leur vie et pendant des années se sont battus. Nous avons bien fait. On est parti parce qu'il y a eu des coups d'État. Parce qu'on était là à la demande d'États souverains qui avaient demandé à la France de venir.
Translation: the empire just got kicked out. Traoré didn't stop there. He suspended and shut down French state media outlets like Radio France Internationale and France 24, accusing them of broadcasting disinformation and destabilizing narratives. He banned French NGOs involved in what he called intelligence gathering under the mask of development. Burkina Faso produces over 70 tons of gold per year, making it among top 5 largest gold producers in Africa. But more than 90% of that wealth is controlled by foreign companies, mostly Canadian, British, Australian, and French. Traoré's administration began auditing all mining contracts, reviewing concessions signed under Compaoré and Kabore, and called out the gold drain that left the country underdeveloped while European stock markets profited. At the same time, Traoré also got plunged in a different kind of war, one waged in newsrooms thousands of miles away. The minute he took power, Western media outlets unleashed a barrage of labels.
Just one thing that he did not mention is that before Traoré, Burkina Faso did not have a gold reserve. That's crazy. It means that all the gold was taken from Burkina Faso straight to Canada, England, France, whatever. Burkina Faso did not have reserve. That's crazy. It's the first time they have gold reserve for themselves and to do whatever they want for themselves with that gold. It is the first time. That's insane. That is crazy. Your gold and you don't have a reserve. All your gold is taken out from your country to Europe. That's insane. Shout out to Ibrahim Traoré. Keep doing your thing.
Junta leader, Putin proxy, militant captain, rising threat. But here's what they often left out: that Traoré's rise came after the total collapse of trust in Western-backed governments. Instead of analyzing what brought him to power, they focused on painting him as the latest African strongman. After his government had suspended French media, the Western press responded with outrage. But here's the contradiction. In a country where trust can mean the difference between survival and collapse, information isn't neutral, it's tactical. This is why Burkina's government intensified its crackdown on foreign media with a zero-tolerance policy towards biased reporting. After Human Rights Watch alleged that Burkinabe troops massacred civilians in 2 northern villages in 2024, the government swiftly suspended outlets like the BBC, Voice of America, and Human Rights Watch itself. Authorities also banned The Guardian, Le Monde, TV5 Monde, Deutsche Welle, and several others, accusing them of an orchestrated media campaign to discredit the armed forces. All their websites were blocked until further notice. Yet, Traoré has been gaining local support with citizens, seeing him as a protector from external manipulation and internal chaos. But even think tanks and analysts joined the fray. The Atlantic Council, Brookings Institution and others published op-eds warning of autocracy, foreign influence and regional instability. Yet many of these same institutions receive funding from Western defense contractors and governments with a stake in Sahel geopolitics, raising questions of conflict of interest. Control of information is control of perception, and perception shapes policy. If Traoré is seen as a liberator, he gains international sympathy. If he's painted as rogue, he becomes a justification for sanctions, isolation, or worse. This is why the media war matters, and in this sense, Traoré was already under siege long before a shot was fired. What truly frightens the West is Traoré's vision of a Burkina Faso and a wider Africa free from foreign dependency. His policies echo Sankara's philosophy of self-sufficiency, food security, and military independence. For decades, Western economies thrived off of Africa's dependence. Traoré's Burkina Faso threatens that economic model, serving as an inspiration for African countries longing for real independence. Then came the coup and assassination attempts. In December 2023, rumors of an attempted ouster of Captain Traoré circulated widely. Though never officially confirmed, diplomatic sources cited increased US satellite surveillance over Ouagadougou around the same period. In response, Burkina Faso's elite presidential guard expanded from 800 to over 2,500 personnel within just 6 months. A senior Burkinabe officer, speaking anonymously, reportedly told Jeune Afrique, "We are not naive. We remember what happened to Sankara." Tensions further escalated recently when US AFRICOM Commander General Michael Langley accused Traoré of diverting national gold reserves to finance his own security rather than the public welfare, the usual historical tactic to manufacture consent for an invasion. In a rejoinder, the Burkinabe government dismissed the statement as imperial propaganda and released a public audit denying the allegations. 2 years.
That's crazy. It's always the same thing. When they want to attack a black leader, they will send a black face, especially American. They will send a black American face, as a proxy, as if we don't know that this guy, Langley, he's useless. He's being controlled from behind, you know what I mean? Because they understand that if they put a white face to talk down upon Africans, we will see and we will scream racism, stuff like that. But they say, okay, wait a minute. We will use a black face. And what happened to him? They changed the guy and they put a white guy now. You know what I mean? It did not work. And it's not gonna work. Because now we have social media, we have everything. And we know what's going on. And we see what's going on. And we know that he escaped 18 assassination attempt. That's a lot. That's a lot. It means that he's doing something great. That's crazy. That's crazy. But we see what's gonna happen. We will see what's gonna happen because if he stays alive, he's still young. He stays alive and he really succeed at what he's doing and what he wants to do. Things are going to be different for all the African country. Things are going to change. And I think this is This is the time. This is the age of Aquarius. And it's going to change. It's going to change. Things are going to change. Maybe not in our lifetime, but I know things are going to change. Let's keep pushing.
Before this, Burkina Faso was suspended from ECOWAS alongside Mali and Niger under the banner of restoring supposed democratic order. This triple suspension coincided with the formation of a new Sahelian alliance named the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES for short, between three states focused on mutual defense, self-determination, and expulsion of foreign military presence. While Western powers have labeled these states pariahs, surveys and expert analysis suggest strong public support in Burkina Faso for deeper regional integration with the neighboring Sahel countries. Despite escalating external pressure, public support for Traoré's administration has remained strong. Over 50,000 civilians volunteered to join Volontaires pour la Défense la Patrie, or VDP, which translates to Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, a number verified by the Ministry of Territorial Administration. What happens when a young African doesn't beg for aid, doesn't fear headlines, and doesn't wait for permission? You get Ibrahim Traoré, and you get a new kind of Africa, one that's not waiting to be saved, but standing up to be sovereign. The question is, can the West tolerate an Africa that thinks for itself, that governs itself, that defines itself? Before Sankara, before Traoré, there was a man who dared to dream of a United States of Africa. Check it out next. Stay curious and as
Shout out to Reason Africa for the video. Amazing. Yeah, that's the kind of leader we need in Africa right now. So that things can change, how people can live in peace, enjoy their land, their resources, and develop their country. That's all we want, you know. And yeah, and for us in the diaspora, we can do better as well. Like I said in the last video, we need to stop all this fighting against each other in the diaspora. I don't like Black Americans. I don't like Black French. I'm Black French. I don't like Black British. I don't like Black Caribbeans. I don't like Afro-Latinos. We need to stop all this shit. We need to stop that. We need to come together. And I'm not saying that we're gonna love. Ooh, no, it's not La La Land. But if we choose to work together, at least we are going to win at the end. You know what I mean? Because I cannot understand, and you cannot tell me, we had in Africa empires. You know what I mean? I say empires, bigger than Europe put together. Just if we just talk about Congo Empire, it was a huge empire, bigger than Western Europe. Okay? We never had problem. Our kings, our queen did not have prison in the kingdom, in the empire. No prison. People were working together, different tribes, different cultures. And you can tell, and you want to tell me we are not able to manage, to lead, to build small countries that we have right now? That's insane. Our ancestors managed bigger spaces than the countries that we have right now, and we cannot manage, sustain, develop those small spaces. That's crazy. When the Portuguese came in the Congo Empire, go read the description. Everything's clean, everything's beautiful. The houses have 3 floors. The streets are well put together. Trees are aligned. The countryside is amazing. Food everywhere. No prison. You can let your stuff somewhere. Nobody's gonna steal it. So now you tell me we went from that to small countries that we have nowadays, and we can even take care of those countries, take care of the people in those countries. That's crazy. When we have all the minerals, all the resources. I'm sad. That's crazy. And like I said in the last video, I went on vacation in Zanzibar. Zanzibar is an island in front of the Tanzania or Eastern Africa. And there were a lot of people, strangers, foreigners, Asian, Europeans, Turkish. Everybody was there, building, creating stuff, businesses, living the soft life. You know what I mean? And I was shocked. I was like, if those people are leaving Europe, Asia, Turkish, to go in Africa, to start businesses, to live the soft life, and why we, the diaspora, are not doing that? Why we are not coming together and go back to Africa, buy land, start creating businesses. And I'm not saying we need to stay there, but we need to do the back and forth. You can come here, I'm in Europe, back in Europe, but that's in America, back in America, Caribbean, Latin America, Asia, and then you go back in Africa, do businesses, stay 5 months there or whatever, and then you come back. There's a lot of things that we can do, but why are we not doing that? Because I'm telling you something, by the time we wake up, it's gonna be late. You're gonna see a bunch of Asian, a bunch of European there with lands, with businesses, and we are going to be like, oh shit, shoot, okay. So that's why we need to change. We need to move differently. This is 2025. We need to go on vacation on the motherland to see what's going on, to make connections. And there's also, let that sink in, there's a lot of African Americans in Africa with their families or married to Africans. Okay, I'm gonna show a video. I'm gonna do a video about that. There's a lot of African Americans, Caribbeans, Latino Americans, Afro Latinos, black from like me from Europe, in Africa, with their families, or single but married to local women, local men there, opening businesses. There's a lot of them, but we need more of that. We need more of that. You know what I mean? This is our land. Because when shit about to hit the fence here, we need to have a backup place to go. You know what I mean? And shit's gonna hit the fence at some point here. I'm telling you. So start going back and forth in Africa, businesses, looking places. And yeah, and at some point in time, you go back and stay there. All right? So take care of you and your family, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, comment below. Till next time, take care of you and your family. Peace.